dead water for living flowers. Part 1. The stalker's name was Sava. Not Sava the Lucky, not Sava the Bullet, just Sava. He was nearing 40, or perhaps a little past it. The zone had a way of erasing exact dates from faces, like acid rain stripping paint from metal. He didn't chase after empties, and didn't crawl into the deepest hellholes for mom's beads. Sava was looking for something else. More accurately, he was waiting. Waiting for the zone itself to show him what he had been wasting away here for so many years. His camp was an inconspicuous hideout beneath the gnarled roots of an old pine tree, right on the border of the red forest and the swamps. A quiet place, if you didn't count the eternal whine of mosquitoes and the occasional guttural sigh of the swamps themselves as they digested another careless life. Sava disliked noisy gatherings around a campfire, drunken tales, and the dividing of loot. His only constant companion was an old PDA in which he kept a diary, not for anyone else, for himself. Trying to hold on to his unraveling thoughts, to cling to his fading humanity. This morning had begun as usual. A gray dawn reluctantly seeped through the dense, rust-colored crowns of the trees. The air smelled of decay, damp earth, and something else. A barely perceptible, unsettlingly sweet aroma. This scent always appeared before a mood surge, as Sava called the local anomalous disturbances, invisible to the eye but pressing on the psyche, dragging out from the depths of the soul either melancholy or causeless euphoria. He was checking his snares for small game. He needed to eat. One loop was empty. The second had caught a scrawny, mangy rabbit with unnaturally bright, almost violet eyes. The local fauna had long ceased to surprise with its mutations. Sava sighed wearily, butchering the catch. He didn't even feel like eating. Yesterday, he had stumbled upon a strange place. A small clearing, hidden deep in the forest, where it seemed even mutants dared not tread. The grass there wasn't rust-colored, not scorched, but unnaturally green, lush, as if irrigated with living water. And in the middle of the clearing grew a single flower. Huge, with petals the color of congealed blood, and it glowed, with a faint, pulsating light, as if a small, tired heart was beating inside it. Sava had spent several hours by the flower. The detectors were silent. No radiation, no psi background, nothing. Only this quiet, enveloping sadness emanating from the crimson glow. He hadn't dared to pick it. There was something too human about that flower. Returning to his hideout, he couldn't sleep for a long time. He thought about the flower. He thought about how the zone didn't just kill and maim. Sometimes it gave birth to such fragile, sorrowful beauty. Why? During the day, Sava decided to go to the flower again. Something drew him there. He took a flask of water with him, clean, settled water, the kind he filtered himself through charcoal and herbs. Foolish, of course, watering an anomalous flower, but his hands had done it proprios. The clearing met him with the same silence. The flower was in its place, its crimson petals slightly drooped. Sava approached cautiously. The glow had weakened, the pulsation less frequent. He squatted down, opened the flask. "Now, what's wrong with you?" he whispered softly, surprised by the sound of his own voice. Feeling down, slowly, in a thin stream, he watered the earth at the base of the stem. The water quickly soaked into the dry, cracked soil. The flower didn't react. Sava sat a little longer, looking at the crimson petals. An unpleasant ache started in his chest. He remembered how, long ago, before the zone, his mother had similar flowers growing in her front garden. Only they were ordinary, didn't glow, and didn't evoke such a deep, inexplicable melancholy. Daisies. No, not daisies. What were they called? He whispered to himself. His memory remained stubbornly silent, offering only fragments of images, scents, sensations. This, too, was the zone's doing. It didn't just take lives. It also took the past, leaving behind only a scorched wasteland of memories. As the sun began to dip towards the horizon, painting the sky in alarming crimson tones, Sava stood up. The flower still stood there, wilted and barely glowing. It didn't help, he stated sadly. He had already turned to leave when he caught a movement out of the corner of his eye. Not in the clearing, but there, deep in the forest, behind a dense wall of trees. Something flickered, or someone. Sava froze, his hand instinctively going to the grip of his trusty, heavy pistol holstered at his belt. He peered into the thickening twilight, trying to make out what it was. From behind the trunk of the nearest aspen, a hand appeared. Thin, almost childlike, covered in pale skin. It reached out slowly, hesitantly, towards the edge of the clearing. And then, from behind the tree, the figure itself emerged. A girl. About 7 years old, no more. In a torn, dirty dress, barefoot. Her hair, once fair, was now matted and dull, but her eyes were exactly like that flower. Huge, dark, and in their depths smoldered the same sad, crimson spark. The girl wasn't looking at Sava, she was looking at the dying flower. There was such agony in her gaze, such unchildlike sorrow, that Sava's breath caught in his throat. She took a few steps into the clearing, stopped by the flower, and knelt. Her thin fingers gently touched the wilted petals. "Don't die," she whispered with deep sorrow. Her voice was barely audible, like the rustle of dry leaves. "Please, not now." Sava stood as if thunderstruck. Children in the zone. This wasn't just an anomaly. This was something beyond comprehension. He knew stories of lost expeditions, of groups that had vanished without a trace. But a child, alone, here. The girl raised her head and looked directly at him. There was no fear in her crimson eyes, only expectation. And something else. Something Sava couldn't understand. Something that made him forget about his gun, about the danger, about the zone itself. Who are you?" he asked hoarsely, his voice calm but with a clear underlying tension. The girl remained silent, not looking away, and then she did something that sent a chill down Sava's spine. She held out her hand to him. That same thin, pale hand, and on her palm lay a small, freshly bloomed bud. An exact replica of the large flower, only tiny, and it too glowed brightly, confidently, with a crimson, living fire. Part 2. Sava looked from the tiny bud, pulsating with the crimson light on the girl's palm, to her bottomless, sorrowful eyes. Words caught in his throat. He had seen a lot in the zone, things that would make a normal person lose their mind. But this quiet scene, this fragile girl with a living fire in her hand in the midst of a dying forest, this was something different. Not frightening in the usual sense. More stunning in its otherworldliness. "Is this for me?" he finally managed, nodding at the bud. The girl nodded slowly. Her gaze did not leave his face, as if she were trying to read something very important in it. Sava reached out his hand carefully, afraid of scaring away this vision, and took the bud. It was warm, almost hot, and from it emanated the same quiet, enveloping sadness as from the large flower, but with a hint of hope? Yes, that was it. As if this little flame refused to go out. "Thank you," Sava said, and he felt the tension that had gripped him since the girl's appearance subside. He lowered the weapon he had been instinctively clutching all this time. The girl again looked at the large, fading flower. Her lips trembled Edva Zametno. It needs water, she said quietly, but not the kind you brought. That one is dead. Sava frowned. Dead, but I filtered it. It's from this world. The girl gestured around the surrounding forest. It needs a different kind. Living water. Sava would have chuckled if the situation hadn't been so strange. Where would you find that in the zone, girl? If there's anything living here, it's more likely to eat you than give you a drink. The girl looked at him with a kind of childlike seriousness and reproach. You don't understand. Living water it's when it's not for yourself. Sava fell silent, pondering her words. When it's not for yourself? What did she mean? Sacrifice? Altruism? Such concepts seemed like some kind of cruel joke here, in the heart of the merciless zone. And yet, something in her words had caught his attention. He remembered how he himself had watered the flower, expecting nothing in return simply because he felt sorry for it. Was that not for himself? I don't know where to find such water, he admitted honestly. The girl came closer to him. Now he could see her face, delicate features, covered in dust and dirt, but surprisingly clean, as if the zone couldn't truly touch her with its filth. I'll show you, she said, and took his hand. Her palm was small and cool. Only, we need to hurry. It won't last long. Sava hesitated for only a moment. Something about this girl, about her calm confidence, made him believe. Or maybe he just desperately wanted to believe that in this cursed place, there was still something worth risking for. All right, he said. Lead the way. They went deeper into the forest, the girl confidently leading him along barely noticeable paths, bypassing anomalous fields that Sava hadn't even noticed until she pointed them out with a slight movement of her hand. She moved silently, like a forest spirit, while he, a seasoned stalker, stumbled awkwardly behind, trying not to fall behind. The sun had almost disappeared below the horizon, and the forest was plunged into thick lilac twilight. Night insects began to chirp, and somewhere in the distance a swamp hooter let out a guttural hoot. But Sava wasn't scared. Next to this girl, fear receded, giving way to a strange, almost forgotten feeling of being protected. Or maybe it was he who felt like a protector. Finally, they reached a small, moss-covered ravine. At the bottom of it, a spring gleamed dimly. The water in it looked black in the thickening twilight. Here, said the girl, pointing to the spring. This is it. Sava came closer, squatted down. The detector on his wrist was silent. He scooped up a handful of water. It was icy, but the taste was ordinary. No metallic or chemical tang. This water, is it really living? He asked doubtfully. The girl nodded. It remembers. It remembers those who gave without asking for anything in return. Sava looked at her. You? Have you been here long? She tilted her head to the side as if she didn't understand the question. I've always been here, just like them. She nodded towards the flowers, invisible in the darkness. He filled his flask with water from the spring. His hands trembled slightly, either from the cold or from tension. He still didn't fully understand what was happening, but he felt that he had touched something very important, the very secret of this place. The way back seemed shorter. When they returned to the clearing, the large flower had almost completely faded. Its crimson petals were shriveled and drooping, a faint glow barely glimmering in its very core. The girl ran up to it, her face contorted with pain. "Quickly," she whispered. Sava knelt down and carefully, in a thin stream, began to water the flower with water from the spring. The water instantly soaked into the ground. He poured and poured until the flask was empty. For several long, tense minutes, nothing happened. The flower remained lifeless. Sava felt despair growing inside him. Was it all for nothing? And then, a faint pulse ran through the stem. The petals trembled barely noticeably, then again stronger. The crimson glow in the heart of the flower flared brighter, dispelling the surrounding darkness. Slowly, very slowly, the flower began to revive. Its petals unfurled, filling with color and light. The pulsation became steady, strong, confident. The girl let out a quiet sigh of relief and smiled. For the first time since Sava had seen her, and that smile, pure and bright, was worth all the dangers of the zone. The flower now shone so brightly that it illuminated the entire clearing, casting bizarre, dancing shadows on the tree trunks. And in this light, Sava saw that the clearing was not empty. Around the large flower, where he had previously seen only withered grass, dozens of small crimson buds were now pushing through, ready to bloom at any moment. The girl took his hand. Her eyes also glowed with the reflected light of the flower, or with her own inner light. "Thank you," she said. "You saved it, and all of them." "But what are these flowers?" Sava asked, still unable to fully believe what was happening. "And who are you?" The girl looked at him with her deep, sad gaze. "They are the memory of the zone," she answered quietly. "The memory of those who came here not for loot, not for glory, of those who were looking for something else, or simply got lost and remained here forever, leaving behind only a quiet trace of sadness or unfulfilled hope. And I just listened to their stories." She let go of his hand and stepped towards the large flower, which now shone like a small crimson sun. She touched its petals, and the flower seemed to respond to her touch, flaring up even brighter. "Sometimes," she continued, without turning around, "they need help, so that their stories don't die completely, so that someone brings them living water, water in which there is no self-interest, water that remembers kindness." Sava was silent. He looked at the girl, at the shining flowers, at the transformed forest, and felt something changing within himself. The zone he knew, cruel, indifferent, killing, had suddenly shown him another side of itself. Sad, fragile, but alive. He suddenly understood what he had been searching for all these years. Not artifacts, not wealth, not a way to escape the past. He was looking for meaning. And it seemed today he had found it. In this little girl with crimson eyes, in these strange glowing flowers, in this living water, which was nothing more than a reminder that even in the darkest place, there is room for light, if you are willing to see it and share it.